channel, not a bike channel, right? Well, actually, there's a strong linkage between this video and e-bikes because we are looking at the e-bike of the SUP world, the eSUP, the electric SUP, the power assisted SUP, or the power fin, whatever you call it. So without further ado, let's get into it. You're either going to love them or hate them. And all I'm going to do is try to give you the full picture based on my experience using them and let you guys decide if it's something for you. Because at the end of the day, you're more than capable of doing that. So for the past couple of months, I've been using two different types of eSUP. The SIPA Drive and the ePropulsion Vaquita. These are two very, very different types of eSUP, or propulsion assistance for your SUP. The SIPA Drive is a centrally mounted jet drive. It fits within the board, requiring you to have a very specific board from SIPA to use it. It sucks water in and propels it out the back. The ePropulsion product is more of a traditional fin-mounted propulsion system. It has a propeller with a protective shroud around it, with a lead coming out of it that goes onto the battery that's mounted onto the top of your board. It can be fitted to multiple types of fin box and comes with a load of accessories to allow that. Now, something that's quite important to highlight is that while making this video, I've been in really good physical fitness, as well as suffering from something called acute viral myositis.
What?
That's a pretty rare condition that occurs in the recovery phase of some illnesses, like influenza. It's characterised by pretty significant muscle pain and huge loss of strength, so lots of weakness. It kind of felt like I'd run 4 marathons in a row and had absolutely no recovery or massage. Everything ached and I had absolutely no strength in my arms to do anything. It only lasted about a week or so, but it really wasn't very fun. But it did give me an appreciation of what it's like to have less strength in my muscles. And I actually went paddleboarding using these products at that time because I thought it was going to be a really good insight into how these products can help you if you perhaps have weakness in your muscles or conditions that affect your strength. So before I share my experience and my findings, it's time for a bit of a history lesson. Let's look at e-bike history. Back when e-bikes were introduced, and I expect still now, there was a fairly large amount of hate towards them.
I have an absolute hatred for e-bikes.
These things were pretty unfamiliar, not considered pure, and frankly hugely expensive. Now when things are unfamiliar, people get scared and they start to hate things. It's normal, it's actually completely normal, it's human nature. Our ancient brain produces a natural reaction to something it doesn't know or is new. It's called fight or flight. It's what actually used to keep us alive. But we need to explore new ideas as a human race. We need to continually evolve, to become sustainable, to change as the world changes around us. Now, some people are naturally more open to new ideas and will develop them and explore them. And that's what's allowed e-bikes to develop and slowly be accepted into the market. As time went on, e-bikes became more familiar, more affordable, and the benefits more apparent. People started to report that e-bikes were making them more motivated to go cycling.
Electric bikes, baby. They're the future.
They were making it easier to get out and about, supporting those great physical and mental benefits of being out on a bike.
It's so easy to pedal.
And even though e-bikes mean that you technically have to do less exercise, there's even been reports to say that people who use e-bikes are actually fitter than people who use traditional bikes, simply because they do it more. Even dedicated pro cyclists use e-bikes, not for competitions, but for general life and commuting and getting things done. Ultimately, it helps them get from A to B faster, which is more efficient, and that makes life easier.
Yes!
Now, don't get me wrong, people still really hate e-bikes, and that's for many reasons. It's a different feel, it's not pure, and people who start out on e-bikes don't develop the foundation skills that really help them become good cyclists. A lot of people in more specialist disciplines, like mountain biking, will say that people who ride e-bikes don't develop the right etiquette for being out on the trails as those on traditional bikes. These are all completely fair points, but what we also know is people just love to hate. Now, getting back to the eSUP thing. When I was researching making this video, I reached out to you, our amazing community. I wanted to know what you wanted to know about eSUPs. About 1/3 of you were pretty interested. You wanted to know more. You wanted to understand the features and the benefits, the speeds, the ranges. Let's assume that those people are for eSUPs, or at the very least, you're on the fence. You're willing to think about it and consider it. 1/3 of the responses were very negative, very clearly against the concept of eSUPs. So, having used them with an open mind over a decent amount of time in different conditions of physical fitness, I'm going to give you the reasons to love and the reasons to hate eSUPs. But first, let's see how the two models I tested stack up in terms of performance. When it comes to speed, the SIPA Drive has 3 speed settings. Without any paddling assistance, this gave speeds of around 3.5, 4.5 and 5.5 kilometers an hour. With gentle paddle assistance, this would be topped up to 4.5, 5.4 and 6.3, highlighting that the benefit seems to reduce as you go a bit faster. With the same kind of paddle cadence and power, the board would paddle without any motor at about 3 kilometers an hour. So this was giving some sort of assistance of 0.5 kilometer an hour, 1.5 kilometers an hour and 2.5 kilometers an hour. When I tried really fast, hard sprint paddling, I managed to get 8.5 kilometers an hour with no drive assistance. This was topped up to about 9.7 kilometers an hour when paddling. But what I did notice is that with that amount of power in my paddling, water was starting to squeeze through the gap between the drive unit and the board. The ePropulsion Vaquita has 8 speed modes, and that allows you to go without any paddling up to about 9 kilometers an hour.
Whoa! Whoa! Okay.
In terms of range, I tested both products on the same day in very calm conditions. The temperature of the batteries when charged was around 15 degrees Celsius, and the ambient temperature was about 8 to 10 degrees Celsius. It's quite nice being driven. Still doing a little bit of paddling, but it's nice to make progress a little bit quicker and just kind of take it in a little bit more rather than have my head down paddling hard. The distance I covered was kind of irrelevant because I was just using the drive units at full power for as long as they would last. The SIPA Drive lasted about 45 minutes before it completely cut out. 33 minutes in and I'm at 50% battery. And it's quite cool because the app's gone orange to tell me to turn around and go home. I thought I was going to have a little bit longer because it did its halfway alert at about 35 minutes and it just stopped at about 45 minutes. So yeah, just literally just that. The last half went down much quicker. What you do notice about the SIPA, as soon as the water gets a little bit choppy, it kind of does what I would describe as a wheel spin if you're on a bike. So if you look out the back, you can kind of see some turbulent water coming out, and then the unit makes a little bit of noise, which is basically, it's kind of slipping, it's losing traction because there's a bit too much turbulence in the water, it's picking up some air. Okay, so I've switched over to the Vaquitta from ePropulsion. Much faster, much quieter, but much more tricky to get connected. It took me about 10 minutes and I got very cold, but we're off. The ePropulsion Vaquita has a much larger battery and at full speed lasted 1 hour and 10 minutes. All 4 lights have started to flash simultaneously, which means that it's pretty much out of batteries. It's worth highlighting that the speed of the ePropulsion is much higher, and for the size of the battery, it suggests that the ePropulsion is a more efficient propulsion system than the jet drive. Killing my time with one of my favourite pastimes, paddling around marinas, perving at all the lovely yachts. What about noise? That was quite a common question for all of you guys wanting to know how disruptive are these to the tranquility of your paddling. The noise does take away from the tranquility of the morning a little bit. It does sound a little bit like I'm standing on a hoover. On the water, measured at ear level, On the SIPA Drive, I was getting 55, 62 and 68 decibels on the 3-speed settings. That's with a background noise of around 55 decibels. Really, you feel the vibration of this product because the unit is right next to your feet. The ePropulsion Vaquita, on the lower settings you don't really know it's running. When at max speed, it was giving you about 59 decibels with a background of about 46 decibels. So it's much quieter and less vibration noticed than the SIPA Drive. In terms of price, the SIPA Drive, you have to use the SIPA Drive board because it's got the hole cut out for the drive unit. The board, the touring model, with bag, fin and a drive, will set you back about £2,275. For the drive only, it's about £1,345. The ePropulsion Vaquita is £695 for the complete kit. Motor, battery, charger and remote, fin adapters and all of the parts. What about paddling these when you weren't using the drive? That was a common question from everybody out in the community. Well, the SIPA Drive is really great for this. You notice very minimal additional drag without the drive on. So it could certainly be used as more of a backup or emergency device than having to be used the whole time. On the flip side, the ePropulsion unit, you really notice the lack of fin. Because this unit attaches to the fin, obviously your fin isn't there, and you completely use your directional stability. This is not really a product you'd want to use and paddle when not have the unit on. You're always going to need to have this unit on for it to be effective. So what happens if you fall off? What cutout or emergency functions do these products have? The SIPA Drive has a proximity sensor on its controller that attaches to the paddle. This works really effectively at just a few meters. But what happens when you actually fall off is the weight of you not being on the board actually means that the jet drive stops working so effectively because it's just sucking in more air. It's not deep enough in the water, so it actually really cuts out very effectively. The ePropulsion unit also has a proximity sensor, but this doesn't really cut out for about 10 to 15 meters. And what I noticed is when I fell in, my leash would become tight and the sensor didn't cut the unit out. This means that you do manually have to turn it off if you fall out because you'll be pulled along by the unit attached to your leash. I wouldn't say it's dangerous, but it's something to think about if you're considering buying this product. Now obviously these products are going to get used around water, but they do have slightly different waterproof ratings. The SIPA Drive is rated IP67. That means it's not completely waterproof, and that's really down to the seal into the battery compartment of the drive. I think that's absolutely fine, but what you do need to do is if you flipped over the unit to pull out weed or anything else that got stuck in it, you would have to be careful if you flipped it over in the water because that unit might leak in some water into the battery compartment. The ePropulsion product is IP68 rated, which means it's solidly waterproof and you can completely submerge that for a short period of time as long as it's not too deep. In terms of general performance, what you notice the most with these two products is the way that they'll track.
The SIPA definitely pulls pretty hard to the right. Doesn't take long before you need to correct yourself. The ePropulsion Vaquita pulls really hard to the left. I'm sure there's some techers reason for it.
So, I'm going to give you the reasons to love and the reasons to hate eSUPs. I'm feeling in a good mood, so we're going to start with the reasons to love an eSUP. Number one, they ultimately allow you to put less effort in, paddle against the conditions with less strength or poorer technique. They make paddleboarding easier. Number two, they allow you to go quicker, but remember, it's not by much. And generally, the faster you paddle, the less the speed benefit you get from your eSUP drive unit. Number three, they will help you become more motivated to paddle harder, more challenging paddles or further distances. You can also think of them as a safety backup. So when you're going on these further distances, as well as getting that extra little bit of help, you've got a safety backup system in case the conditions do get the better of you. And if you suffer from limited strength or fatigue, you know that an eSUP will give you a tool that will help you paddle those paddles, those sessions, those distances that you didn't ever think were possible.
You get about 4 knots running through here, and it's usually quite hard to paddle against. The SIPA Drive is just holding me in position, and then my paddling can make me move further forward.
Number 4, they're really easy to use. They're easy to install, set up, and really easy to use when you're out on the water. Number 5, eSUPs are such a great tool for SUP fishing. If you don't know anything about SUP fishing and how an eSUP can help you, make sure you check out Ruben's really awesome vlog using the Aquamarina Blue Drive a few years ago to see how it can really transform your fishing experience. Now, let's talk about the reasons you might hate an eSUP. Number 1, seaweed is your worst enemy. In fact, not just seaweed, any debris in the water is your enemy, and it will drive you nuts. You will be avoiding it on the water like you avoided COVID. It's horrendous, it's horrible, and it makes the experience really frustrating.
Right now I have a love-hate relationship with eSUPs. So good, but so annoying when you run over weed. Oh my god, it is the most frustrating thing in the world because you have to stop, go to a shore, and then pull out the weed from the engine. And it kind of makes me hate it a little bit this time of year when we've got a lot of debris in the water. Leaves, twigs, seaweed.
If you fail to avoid it, the speed of your eSUP and its efficiency is going to be heavily influenced. Prepare to be turning over your eSUP loads to remove debris from its drive. Number 2, price. Be prepared to be paying anywhere between £700 and £1,500 for one. The SIPA Drive needs its own board, so your normal touring board that might cost you between £700 and £1,000 is going to cost you more like £2,200. It's a big investment that you need to think carefully about. And perhaps the price is too high. Number 3, they will not help improve your technique. They will hinder your technique progression so much. Having this assistance won't help you develop your paddle technique, your stroke technique, to be a good, strong paddleboarder. The only way that the eSUP will allow you to do that is that if you only use your eSUP when you really need to, when the conditions get more tricky and your technique or your strength is limiting you. Number 4, unless you paddle a really, really long way, I don't think these things are going to help you get fitter. It's not like an e-bike which is pedal assisted and will help you get fitter as a result just because you use it more. Particularly with products like the ePropulsion Vaquita, it's really just press and go and you don't need to use your paddle. Number 5, your board suddenly gets really heavy. Number 6, be prepared to get that horrible feeling of battery anxiety. Not knowing how long you've got and how far you can go. Kind of takes away from the simplicity and beauty of paddleboarding. Paddling some of these products without the drive on seriously compromises the board's ability to be paddled. The removal of a fin has a massive effect on how these products work without the power on. So if you do lose battery power, run out of battery, or you want to paddle it without the motor on, it's not really that fun, unless you're using the SIPA Drive. The SIPA Drive is certainly more of an assistance tool than a full-on throw your paddle in the bin tool. So, where am I at? Am I a lover? Or am I a hater? Well, I'm neither. So, does that make me on the fence? Nope, I'm not on the fence either. I'm just not in love with these things. But I can see the practical benefit of where they can be a really exciting thing in paddleboarding. I just don't have that tingly feeling inside me yet that makes me think this can really transform paddling. I do, however, think that that might come in time as products are developed and more innovation comes to the market. I think that power assistance is a really exciting thing within paddleboarding, but a lot of the products on the market, they just replace the need to have your paddle. The paddle becomes the tool that you use to steer your board, not propel your board. Products like the SIPA Drive are a little bit more exciting because they do give you that ability just to have a power assistance. It's much more like pedal assistance on an e-bike, which I think brings a lot of additional benefits. I can really see how these products can help get more people on the water, help make our incredible sport or pastime of paddleboarding more accessible to more people. And that can only be a really great thing. But like many people would say in the biking world, you need to do your apprenticeship first on a real traditional paddle propelled board. Develop your core paddle skills first, then I think you'll enjoy your eSUP way more. The eSUP will allow you to just go further, tackle more challenging conditions, and give you a very, very valid confidence booster if you are taking on more challenging paddle routes. But think really carefully if you want to invest in one. You might be better off having a paddle lesson, getting a better board or a better paddle to really work on your technique or give you equipment to allow you to develop your technique. An eSUP shouldn't be a tool to keep up, it should be a tool to support where you want to go. Then there's all the really good reasons why you might want to get an eSUP. Fancy SUP fishing. These things are a game changer in that world. Perhaps you want to do a 20-mile commute on your paddleboard, but you don't have the time to do it. Perhaps an eSUP can help you achieve that goal and make it possible. Or perhaps you suffer from a physical condition that's always going to prevent you paddling in some conditions. The eSUP can really help you, give you that confidence booster and extra power to get against the wind, to get against the tide, or to get against the river flow. Personally, I've got some great and exciting ideas of how an eSUP could really help me on some of the adventures that I want to do. So I would say I'm certainly more towards the love than the hate. But really I do see this as something that can complement SUP, not replace SUP. I want to see products develop more. I want to see products become more assistance based than throw away my paddle based. I 100% still love my good old manual paddle powered SUP. I would say get your paddle skills really dialed first and then consider an eSUP to see how you can use that to fulfill your ambitions. So thanks for watching guys, and I hope that's given you a good insight into some of the pros and the cons of eSUPs. It's been really exciting using these things, and I'm sure there's going to be a load of haters out there, and we're going to see some positive and negative comments below. Please let us know what you think, whether it is positive or negative, and perhaps if there's enough interest, we'll probably do a head-to-head test on the eSUPs available on the market to help you understand what is right for you. Until next time, happy paddling, happy eSUPing, and I'll see you on another SUPboarder video real soon.